Now, global stock markets have gotten a major boost over news of a potential effectiveness of a vaccine for the coronavirus. Apart from the pharmaceutical companies involved, airlines and energy companies are also seeing big gains. Let's get the latest from our business editor, Stephen Carroll. Stephen, firstly, how are the markets trading today?
Things a little calmer today after that massive rally we saw across global stock markets on Monday. European shares starting the day with just very small gains, although they're holding on to the big rally from Monday. So obviously the optimism is still persisting on markets, although investors moving on to kind of other issues today. In terms of how it breaks down among the sectors, pretty much the same as what we saw yesterday. Technology shares tend to be down, while pharmaceutical companies, as you said, but also airlines getting some boost today. And we are seeing again gains in airlines. Air France up at 2% at the open, Lufthansa up 4% at the start of trading in Germany as well. It was a similar picture in Asia earlier on as well. Smaller gains, although the Hang Seng in Hong Kong did manage to see gains of over 1% towards the end of its trading day. Just the Shanghai and Composite in the red in trading today, and market analysts are saying that that could actually be because if the rest of the world manages to roll out a vaccine and restart their industries that have been stalled by coronavirus, that actually China, who's already been able to restart much of their industry, might actually lose out in that case because their rivals could catch up very quickly in terms of capacity for export. So perhaps an area where China might have done well from the rest, or rather other countries being less back on their feet and less operational, they might lose out in that sense. So that's to explain some of the trend of what we're seeing in Chinese companies. Across the sectors, we had those gains, as I said, for airlines. Japan Airlines up over 20% today. But the flip side of that has been what's been happening with technology companies. While on Wall Street, there were gains on the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. On the NASDAQ, which is where the main technology companies are listed, there were falls on many of the biggest names in that area. Amazon down 5%, Netflix down 8.5%, and the Chinese tech giant Tencent today, its shares trading down in Hong Kong as well. So perhaps painting a picture of how investors are looking to the future, although they jumped very quickly on this vaccine news. Of course, it will be some time before we know how quickly that vaccine could be rolled out, and that may have a greater impact on the business world. Of course, there's some other factors playing into how markets performed over the past 24 hours as well, not least the results of the US presidential election.
Meanwhile, Stephen, new figures showing a sharp rise in unemployment here in France.
Yeah, that's right. These are figures from the period from July to the end of September from the National Statistics Office, and they saw a rise in unemployment in mainland France to 8.8%. That's the new jobless rate for mainland France. If you include the overseas territories, it's slightly higher at 9%. That's a big jump, in fact, from the previous 3 months where the rate was around 7%, and that's what the National Statistics Office INSEE is saying is somewhat correcting what they called the optical illusion of the last quarter's unemployment figures, where because many people couldn't look for work, they weren't counted as unemployed under this particular measure of joblessness. Nonetheless, INSEE is expecting that there will be over 800,000 fewer jobs in France by the end of this year compared to the end of 2019. Now, we did see that there are several factors playing into why the job numbers haven't moved so much before now, one of which is France's furlough scheme, which is still in operation at 100% for areas like hospitality and tourism. So there's a lot of people there who wouldn't be counted as unemployed by this measure, but are still out of work. Of course, their salaries currently being paid by the government, but the fear is that if many of those companies feel they won't survive, that they will let staff go, and we could see that jobless rate go much higher over the next 3 to 6 months as the pandemic plays out, and also depending on the government response in terms of lockdowns. Further impact, of course, abroad as well. Travel is a huge industry in France, and if global travel doesn't resume, there will be job losses in that sector as well.
Okay, Stephen, thanks indeed for that. Stephen Carroll there, our business editor, bringing us up to date on the latest.